You brought up SmackDown. You also brought up a press conference with Roman Reigns and Logan Paul.
Yes, I did.
Would you like to discuss
Thank you for reminding me. Well, I didn't know where you did. I just, I was agreeing with you because you made a declarative statement there, but you didn't ask me if I wanted to discuss it. Do you want to discuss it?
Let's discuss it. I think the listeners want to hear what you have to say, but in general, what are your thoughts? Because we're seeing more and more press scrums, press events. Triple H is talking to the press, Tony Khan, MJF just did a flood of wrestling media. What are your thoughts on doing these press conferences?
Well, obviously there's different ways to do them, and press conferences in wrestling can be all over the page. When they try to, and this goes back to the territory days, when they try to stick to a more athletic, serious, sports-based presentation, if I can borrow a term or a phrase, then they come off well. Because that's what you should only be having a press conference about the main event guys in your company. One of either the world tag team title or the world heavyweight title or some top prize. I mean, remember when Crockett had the Crockett Cup press conferences? Especially the best one was when he flew everybody up to Baltimore and we had it at Sabatino's. Got to eat there for free that day. Those are fine. The press scrum afterward that Tony has been doing, and honestly, when was the last wrestling promotion besides AEW that did these press scrums afterwards? Can you remember? Has there been another one? Was it ever a thing anywhere else?
It was a thing in the UFC.
No, I'm talking about wrestling.
No, I know. I think that's where it started. It started with AEW because of the UFC. Okay,
well then they didn't pay attention because UFC, when they do something like that, either a press conference or a media scrum after the show, they actually have, first of all, legitimate media. They have ESPN, they have Fox Sports, they have fucking legitimate Sports Illustrated, whatever the case, right? And secondly, the whole idea that Tony has, for whatever reason, that he thinks is a press scrum is to let everybody that has a website dedicated to wrestling that likes his company get in for free to talk to some of their favorite wrestlers and ask them questions that it's not, again, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, major news outlets, whatever the case. So it's a bunch of guys applauding the wrestlers when they come in the room and then asking them friendly questions. And then it's Tony leading the rest of all of his guys to completely break the fourth wall, destroy kayfabe, and just talk about how much fun they had putting their art together and how that everybody just loves everybody for the match that they had that night and blah, blah, blah. So it's a mark fest on every side and on every level. And those websites are already there and they're already going to cover that fucking show. And my God, the chances of any of them saying anything negative about the show are astronomical. So for Tony, it's not even extra press or public relations. It's the opportunity to sit out there and talk to a bunch more marks that like his show and have his wrestlers, his live action figures, come out and sit there. And we've talked about it. My God, what time did they get to the building? For a pay-per-view at 8 o'clock Eastern, call time in the WWF used to be for the talent 1 o'clock. And that's the crew and the creative team and et cetera have been there before that. Then he wants the guys, after they've sat through one of those 5-hour shows and had a match, to sit out there for 2 hours and talk to more fucking fans. And he wonders why shit goes awry. My God, I can't imagine that guys in the WWF that were on top making a fucking shit ton of money 25 years ago, would any of them would have stayed after the goddamn pay-per-view was over with at midnight to talk to fucking NBC News. But it's two different approaches. The WWE, this press conference with Logan Paul and Roman Reigns, they treated it like the UFC does. They treated it like a legitimate press conference with a professional sports franchise and two athletes that are going to have a fucking fight. And there's Triple H being Dana White, stepping in the middle all the way down to, at the end of the thing, the two fighters squaring off for the press pictures, and Triple H keeping his hand in the middle to make sure there's no touching and physical violence going on. And the camera's snapping. It could have been UFC, it could have been boxing. It was talked about in the same tone. Logan Paul was put over for his entrepreneurial spirit and his, showmanship and his promotion ability, but also that he hung with Floyd Mayweather and never got knocked down. They legitimized him as best they could with factual statements. But here, Roman Reigns is on God mode. And it was legitimate, at least to some extent, legitimate press there, because they had called a press conference and because they're the WWE, they're the industry leader, the standard flag bearer, whatever. So they're going to get in mainstream news publications. Not to say that AEW never does, but mainstream news publications do not have any of their reporters or representatives in the room at midnight after a fucking AEW pay-per-view. So it's just it's like the grown-ups are doing this, and then the kids want to pretend to do like the grown-ups do, so they do it the other way over here. And it's just another way and it's not necessary. It doesn't need to be this way. This is another place where AEW looks more amateurish, second-rate, low rent, minor league, whatever phrase you want to use, than the WWE, and they're inflicting it upon themselves. They don't have to do these things at all. Or if they did, they could easily either do them before a show where people are dressed up in legitimate clothes and look like professional athletes, or if they've got to do it afterwards, at least let the guys take a shower and fucking spruce up a little bit instead of coming in looking like shit and just droning on something that doesn't benefit the company or the next big show. Your thoughts, Brian?
It's interesting. We get so much material for this show and, for the wrestling news that comes out of the scrum. Is it productive, though? I mean, the CM Punk thing notwithstanding, just in general, taking this last incident out of the equation, how productive is it? I mean, he's getting headlines on all the different wrestling websites, and we know that Tony cares a lot about wrestling websites and wrestling Twitter and the reaction he gets on social media. So it means a lot to him. He gets to sit there and...
Would he not be getting the same thing without the media scrum for 2 hours after the 5-hour fucking show?
Well, the other thing that you got to take into this is that he wants to do it. He wants to be there talking to everyone. He wants to give his opinions on things. He wants to have his views out there in the world. He enjoys doing it more than I think it's a necessary function that needs to be there.
Well, maybe he should take up collecting stamps. Just an idea, just something else in his spare time. I know he has so much spare time, something else that he enjoys that may be more productive than dragging the guys out there to talk to a bunch of fan sites at 2:00 in the morning. Because I'm sure that sooner or later there will be emotions running high again, and somebody might say something they might not have said if it'd been 8:00 at night and they hadn't been sitting in that building for 14 hours.
What do you do with Logan Paul? Because he's going into this match. I'm assuming Roman Reigns is not going to drop the belt. So you have to have him either win or walk out somehow with the belt. I don't know if Saudi Arabia wants fuck finishes for their main events. What do you do here with this guy?
Well, no, you can't switch the belt, or then it becomes, instead of a clever way to capitalize on a celebrity that can wrestle that you have under contract, then you've pissed off, your most devoted fans because he doesn't deserve it because he's had 2 fucking matches. And then you got a backlash against the guy. Yeah, hey, maybe put another match on in Saudi Arabia afterwards just to send the Saudi Arabians home happy, or at least as happy as they can be because they live in Saudi fucking Arabia. And fuck him, yes. And then maybe, somebody else runs down some of the stars of the WWE that the Saudis will love to see to assist Logan Paul in running off the bloodline and giving Roman Reigns a bump or something. But no, you can't switch the belt. Not even in Saudi Arabia, especially because it's going to be on TV over here. It's not like they could keep it secret. If it was one of those unauthorized Ric Flair Harley race deals in Auckland, New Zealand, that might be one thing. But no.